throw that in there.
The difference between chimp violence and bonobo violence is huge. Like it's massive. And who do we resemble more right now culturally? I would argue chimps. Like with marauding bands of dudes beating other dudes up. Like that like but that doesn't have to be that way. Like they're very close relatives and there's two different paths right there. Like neither was inevitable. It was like decisions over and over again.
It's like heroin, right? You don't want to be the one, sucking dick on the street for heroin.
Yeah,
that's not a good way to live your
part
life.
Why I've never tried heroin.
Yeah, right?
ever.
Sometimes the worst of what can happen is a good motivator to go the opposite direction.
Yeah, but it's like, why do we have to be motivated by fear when there have been... That's not an inevitability.
Being homeless.
To have a system where fear is the ultimate motivator. I think fear is actually a very bad motivator. It creates kind of like a panicked, manic populace, which I feel like we are. We're like very trigger happy, very like violent, very end up in jail kind of vibe.
You don't think that's just ingrained in humans though?
No, no, I don't. I don't think anything's ingrained. I think it's a matter of choice. Like, okay, I like to think of like bonobos versus like chimpanzees. Have you heard about bonobos?
Yeah, bonobos aren't aggressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They settle disputes with like sex stuff instead, and they have like female coalitions.
We should say, isn't it sex stuff against like fathers and daughters and brothers and sisters?
I'm not saying we need to be bonobos.
Okay.
I'm just saying
I just had to throw that in there.
The difference between chimp violence and bonobo violence is huge. Like it's massive. And who do we resemble more right now culturally? I would argue chimps. Like with marauding bands of dudes beating other dudes up. Like that like but that doesn't have to be that way. Like they're very close relatives and there's two different paths right there. Like neither was inevitable. It was like decisions over and over again. And I don't think our violence and fear-mongering culture is inevitable. I think it's like, if this system was inevitable, it wouldn't have to be enforced with so much violence, like with so much force, with like police brutality, with you end up in jail if you mess up at all. Like, it's not natural either.
Well, none of this is natural, right?
Yeah, so if we're gonna like... If we're going to have an unnatural system, why not make it cooler than this one?
Well, I agree with you in the sense that we've got a lot of problems. We have a lot of problems. But I always have to push back because I think we're in the best spot we've ever been in, which is hard for people to grasp because there's still a lot going wrong. But pick another time in history that you would want to be in. I would want to be right now.
I would be down to live in North America like 1,000 years ago or 500 years ago before.
But there's a lot of violence. There's a lot of violence with that.
Not as much.
Yeah, but that's people getting jacked by animals. Like you've got people going out to hunt and they just never come back.
Yeah,
you've got tribes fighting other tribes, scalping people. Like there's this weird. That's the thing, right? That's what always gets me. Is there's this weird romanticizing effect of people looking back on the past.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to romanticize the past, but I would say that 500 years ago we were not on the brink of ecological collapse. Like,
no, but that's a very different thing, right? That is a choice that is attained to our modern choices. But I think that the violence aspect is something that has been prevalent throughout history, right? We didn't have plastics 500 years ago, which I think we could both agree we probably should have stuck without them.
Oh, yeah, no, plastics were a bad move.
You know people eat on average a credit card in plastic a week. A credit card size of plastic.
I didn't know that. That is a lot more than I expected.
All the microplastic. Mm-hmm. It adds up to a credit card a week. Tight. Isn't that terrifying?
And you just said we live in the greatest time of all.
But still,
I don't know,
man. I would choose that over getting jacked by a saber-toothed tiger any day of the week. Give me a little plastic. I'll eat a water bottle right now.
By tigers, like they.
But we don't know because we're not back. I mean, let's be real though. Life in the caveman era would not. I mean,
I would not have
wanted
to be
raped.
A caveman.
Like, there's no consensual sex.
Yeah, I don't want to be a caveman, but I would say that, like, in the same way that that I was saying earlier, that there wasn't like a straight line of human progress. It was a web, and that there's this book that I've been reading called The Dawn of Everything, which is by David Graeber and David Wengrow, and they are trying to push against the cultural narrative of human history being this kind of like straight line. And there, then there were the hunter gatherers, and there were the farmer guys, and then now there's the industrialist, whatever, and like that it's been a very straight line. And they're like, no way, not even close. Like that it's been more like a web of decisions. And like I said, I would rather have been like in the Wendat tribe 300 years ago than than a colonist woman, because like there was way more sexual freedom, there was way more like individual freedoms, there was not this like same level of absurd violence. Like,
But that's not true. Native American tribes were incredibly violent.
Some.
Most. And if you're not the one that's incredibly violent, all it takes is another tribe to come into your area and shit hits the fan.
Yeah, but then you can run. It's fight or flight.
Yeah, but
flight is an option too.
This is the funny thing that I've noticed that happens. Have you ever seen any violence up close and personal?
You like fight? Yeah.
No, I mean like
someone
somebody
like get shot to death.
being on the edge. Yeah. Have you ever seen anybody get stabbed or anything like that?
Not in person.
When you see violence, and I've seen violence to an extent. I haven't seen anybody get stabbed. But when you see violence, you realize people are capable of some wild shit.
Yeah, but have you seen a grown man play with some bubbles?
You know what? I have not seen that.
Yeah, I have. People are capable of all things. Like,
I've not seen a grown man play with bubbles.
Yes, infinite potential.
But
I think you got two wolves, man. Which one do you feed?
That's true. Like today. But I think in the past, I don't know why people.
But I feel like that's infantilizing people of the past. They were basically the same as us right now. Like they were as smart.
The world was 100%. I would agree. But the world was different. The world was a much more violent place. There wasn't the security. We have this weird security of society.
I hope you check out that book.
I'm going to read it. The
Dawn of Everything.
I'm absolutely going to read it.
It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
And it pokes at a lot of these narratives about, like pre-humans were these violent monsters. It's about as true as right now. Like, am I a super violent monster? No, I have not even punched someone in my whole life.
But we would agree there are super violent monsters today.
Yeah,
right?
But there are also ways to socially control that better than we do. Like in the book, one of the methods they talked about was, you were talking about violent native tribes or whatever, but like there were in some tribes a method where if someone murdered someone from another tribe, the two tribes would have to get together, and the tribe of the murderer would have to be like, okay, what does this family need to like repair this? We're really fucking sorry. Like, this is not what we want, because this doesn't actually help us very much to have like a constant state of violence. So what do you need? Like that like, let's get together, let's acknowledge this harm, let's acknowledge that this fucking guy did that, and we're not them, we're gonna help. And then that also, like, the social element to me of, I never want to be the guy that is the reason that two tribes have to get together and be like, we're sorry about Jim, he's such an asshole, like he's got one more shot and then he's out of here. Like, that people could remove people from their society, then you're out on your own, and that's real fucking scary. Like, there are ways to, like, in the same way that with my little dirty commie meet in the park time.
I like that you keep going back to this dirty commie.
Well, and they called me a commie.
I called you a commie, but you said dirty commie,
well,
and I feel like that just raises the bar a little bit.
With my silly little idea in the park, there's not been someone like stabbing someone to death, because there's like playtime, there's fun, there's like a sense of joy and lightheartedness that I don't feel like really lends itself to someone like stabbing you over the last Capri Sun, like.
Well, I think that's more societal, right? Because I would say that a school doesn't lend itself to somebody shooting someone, but that happens. I think your circumstantial evidence is valid to an extent, but I think that's more societal pressure on these people of, if I go out and hurt people, there's gonna be some consequences. I think that stops most people from falling into that realm.
Another book that I would recommend that I haven't finished yet, it's called Mutual Aid, and it's by Peter Kropotkin. And that book goes into, how you're saying like, oh, violence is a human thing. It also says that mutual aid and cooperation is is also a very strong
Oh, I would agree.
human
Yeah.
trait.
I
And
don't
that,
think it has to be one or the other.
well, this is the thing though, is that like we are a social species, and the best and most competitive social species is the one that can be social the best, that can cooperate the best. Like we can do amazing things when we cooperate with each other. Like we can do anything. Like literally anything. It's
Put a man on the moon.
yeah, like that was a cooperative effort more than anything. And some of our best moments have been when we can like come together for a united purpose, um which, you know, I don't think we have much more time to just screw off with the whole like